Hello, folks. Welcome to another fun. It's already been fun in the green room, folks. You just have no idea the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. We're another edition of the Marketing Unleashed show. I'm Jeff C. I'm here with my super smart and awesome friend, Elisa Meredith, and we have a very cool guest, first of all, but we have a lot of cool stuff to talk to you about today. So as we're going, Elisa and our guest is going to give a ton of great info. If you know somebody who's like, they need to hear this. Oh my gosh, they need to stop what they're doing and hear this. Mention them down below. Call them in. Even if they can't watch live, they can come back and hear it on the replay. We would really appreciate if you guys would do that. Also, if you would like sprinkle the love throughout all the interwebs, wherever you're watching that, let us, that helps us out a ton as well. But we are excited for you guys to be here. We've got some great people. Yvonne from Canada is here. Oh, I wonder if it's as cold as some other places here. Trona is here. Hello. She's a viewer. Thank you so much. Meagan is here. Hello. A bunch of people coming from the UK watching in the evening. Thank you, Rachel, for doing this. Okay. This is going to be a fun show. Elisa, introduce our...
Oh, Jeff is frozen. So yeah,
that's a great way to start things out.
Isn't it great? Yeah, we have Meagan Williamson here today. She is a strategist and she is fantastic with Pinterest and has her own thriving Facebook group, which we'll talk about a little bit more. So Meagan, tell us what you've been working on lately. What's got you excited?
Ooh, all sorts of things. Thank you so much for having me, guys. Having the opportunity to chat about some of the new exciting things coming out of Pinterest. I know within my communities, we have been talking a lot about all the new features as story pins gets rolled out across the US and into Canada. Jeff made a joke earlier about it being cold. I am in Canada. It is very cold here. We did not get as much snow as some places did. But yeah, we're excited. I don't know if some people have noticed, we've seen, the Pinterest predicts report coming out, alt text showing up on pins, which is interesting, not for everybody. So lots of really interesting things happening right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. Am I unfrozen or am I back?
You're back.
Okay. You're freaking me out. I'm like, it's probably on your end. It's probably your animals have done it. So I want to, Karma said, hey, from Dallas, Texas. I love Texas people. That's where I'm from. So we've got a ton of stuff to talk about today, Elisa. So what do you want to start with? Because you are in charge of this rodeo.
Am I?
You guys, if you have questions as we're going, make sure you drop them in because we've got a ton of cool stuff we're talking about today. We will try to bring up as many as we can because we want to make the show all about you and helping you guys. So, yeah.
All right. So where I'd like to start is, so as I mentioned, Meagan has this Facebook group and some things I've seen on there, it's the first time. So like you mentioned, the alt text on pins, that's the only place I've seen that. That's got to be a little test happening that I hadn't heard before. So if the questions are popping up in your group, they're definitely on the minds of our audience as well. So I thought we would just go through a few of the things you're seeing in conversation and see what we can make of it.
Yeah, I would love that. And, you and I had this conversation that sometimes in these larger Facebook communities, you get real people from different industries, people from all across the world. And I think we're seeing, there are a lot of questions about how to best utilize some of the things coming out of Pinterest and how to adapt, right, in a sustainable way.
Yeah.
So, there's been lots, and you guys have been hosting a lot of really amazing live trainings about, fresh pins, how to engage in all the new recommendations. So where would you like to start, Elisa? I know there's you and I have been watching some things emerge in the Facebook community.
Yeah. All right. So the one about time to index fresh content, that one got me curious. So what's the conversation looking like there? What are people thinking?
Well, so there's lots of different, we have quite a few SEO experts actually who hang out in our Facebook community. Okay. And I think we can all admit that it tends to be a bit of an educated guess, right? So we see different things across different accounts. And I actually saw someone say in the Facebook community recently that it took 60 to 90 days, they realized, for their content to be fully indexed.
Now, how are they looking at that? At what point are they deciding that my content must now be fully indexed?
You know what? I think like a lot of things, it's sort of people, taking educated guesses on the numbers. We know that we've seen some changes with the reporting on Pinterest, how quickly are numbers populated on pins, is it accurate? Are those stable? And what seems to be some of the murmurs that we're hearing is that people are seeing very little traction in the first 7 to 14 days, unless it is a video or story pin. So let's, we're talking standard pins here, static, image pins. And that people are saying, well, I've noticed that about 60 to 90 days later, that's when the visibility starts to kick off. And I start to see my pin, click-through rates increase, more saves, the impressions are increasing on those individual pins. And so this has led people to make some assumptions that maybe content is taking longer to be indexed on the platform.
So I wanted to bring up a comment here from our friend Jennifer Laura. She goes, yes, it has been taking longer in recent months to get an index on Pinterest for sure. So here's a question. Now I'm going to play devil's advocate. Let's say, because I know we have some new people coming in who just started Pinterest for the first time, or just, got their account with Tailwind. So why don't you explain, like, how do people know that when their pin is indexed? Like, what does that mean even for people who may be joining and not even know what that is?
Yeah, great question. Well, I think the people who are providing some of their case studies of what they've observed, or even, some of the data or numbers that they're seeing, tend to be people who have been using Pinterest longer. Right. New users, I think, are finding the experience a little bit more humbling, that it is taking longer. There's a lot of questions. Well, when will my keyword research start to pay off? When will my use of new formats, story pins, video pins, as Pinterest defined at the Creators Festival, native content that keeps, engages the audience within Pinterest, that even when they're doing, what we would define as all the things right, we're still seeing little or no visibility for quite a long period of time. Now, those that are patient know that over time, it takes time to understand who, I think I love this statement that Pinterest said, the right ideas to the right person at the right time, which has to do with search, right? And so, do we actually know?
Right.
Yeah.
So I know Elisa is a walking glossary. So I wanted to ask her, so like Catherine has, like, explain what fully indexed means. And even Marian asks, what is that indexed word? What are we talking about here?
I think we're using it pretty loosely here.
I agree.
Okay. So technically, to me, what that implies, and I'm sure there are other views on it, is that Pinterest has crawled your site, has matched up your pin with that site, and has made some kind of judgment on the level of continuity between pin and page, with some kind of confidence level of, like, okay, this is relevant, we should use this. What do you see, Meagan?
Yeah, well, I think if we apply some of the knowledge we know about how Google, index is a word for, the way that I like to explain it is how a search engine, whether we're talking about Pinterest, Google, and I'm not an SEO expert or a YouTube expert, but it's the way that a system or the algorithm understands what your content is about and can categorize it. So it can show it to the right person at the right time, in the right search. And so this is when we hear a lot of the use of the word, like, understanding relevant content for the right people, that between images, text overlay, like there's all these things that send signals, much like with Google looking at a blog post, and it looks at the images, it looks at the keywords you're using to understand, okay, what is this about? What's the context? What's the content, and what function does it serve? And I think that if we apply some of the knowledge that we have that feels a little bit more black and white in the SEO world and apply it to Pinterest, which doesn't mean that it's right. Again, visibility, and Pinterest is encouraging us as business users to make our content discoverable, to optimize for search so that the right people can find your amazing content that you're pushing out into the world.
Yeah, so I think with that in mind, I would suggest that pin something look at the pin on a close-up and see what is Pinterest serving up as more like this. So what you'll notice a lot of times, or what I've noticed, is that initially it will kind of identify with the image itself, right? So you're going to see a lot of similar looking pins. They could be about any topic. And this is more so for like bloggers who rely on a background image and text overlay. If you're a product seller, they're going to be able to match that up much more quickly with what it actually is, because they're looking at the photo. So I think it makes sense that for bloggers, it would take a little bit more time. And I've seen it take, and I haven't done that particular test in a little while, but I have seen it take 7 days or so. But I think it's also important, yes, look at your analytics. So I did a little test this fall to see the difference between pinning via Pinterest scheduler and pinning via Tailwind scheduler. I wanted to see what the difference was. And so in doing, I recorded the 7-day impressions, the 14 and the 21. And I was seeing impressions the first day. And then by 7 days, I'd say it doubled between 7 days and 14 days, but I was still seeing a decent number of impressions. So for whatever reason, Pinterest was able to kind of figure it out. It might be kind of the age of our accounts, the consistency with which we pin and the topics that we pin on. That might have something to do with it. But I have a guess as to some of why that might be happening. So like we know Pinterest said, all right, people started really searching for Christmas gift ideas in April this year. Okay, so maybe we started pinning Christmas gift ideas in April because the searches were up. However, the peak on that did not happen until December 1st.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say you're pinning too early because it still worked, right? But it might be that you can't really see it start to take off until that trend really ramps up. And you're also getting the benefit of the engagement on it. So the repins on it.
Well, don't we find this with older content? Like I find with a lot of people who are well-established bloggers or been, as a business, even like ecommerce and other accounts outside of the blogging world, because I know we have lots of people who aren't necessarily identify as bloggers, and people love to say, well, Pinterest is only for bloggers. Yes, if you're a blogger, Pinterest is easier for you. You're a natural creator. But the reality is that we find that content that is seasonal and has time to be distributed, and Pinterest to understand who it's relevant for, what it's about, and send whatever signals it sends, that it's that content that, and this has been happening for years, right? It's the content from last holiday season that's really getting its full speed now, because it's had that time to really be understood in its fullest. And then the new content is what we're constantly layering in, that new content, that fresh content that's contributing to that solid pinning strategy. Actually, you mentioned something and you talked about testing your own, like using the Pinterest scheduler and the Tailwind scheduler. And I've also been doing that because, there's been a lot of gossip, I think that's the best word for it.
Yeah.
And
you're too kind.
And we'll just call it gossip.
Yeah.
Some people who maybe based on a very short case study or a gut feeling that they're worried about their numbers. And so they have a guess that maybe it has to do that they're using schedulers. We see this in Instagram. We see this in the other platforms,
Facebook, everywhere.
X hates when you schedule, X doesn't hate. And so there has been some murmurs about whether Tailwind affects, using even though it's approved, an approved scheduler can affect your numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm just not seeing it with, I still retain some Pinterest management clients, although much smaller than my heyday of my agency. But with those accounts, we've been using Tailwind for years, and we've only continued to grow month over month.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will say with just the few that I did, and I tracked them very, very closely, obviously, because I wanted good data here, but I did not see that either. I saw in some cases coming from Tailwind seemed to do better. In a few cases coming from Pinterest seemed to do better, but overall it was a wash.
Yeah.
And, you can't really compare either. Like some Sometimes it was about design. Sometimes it was about Pinterest. So there are going to be differences anyway. But yeah, I found nothing like that.
But we always want to blame something. That's the thing.
Oh,
We
that's
want to
easy to blame.
blame. Oh,
Yeah.
it's not my
Well,
stuff. It's
we don't
that.
always want to take ownership for our own.
Yeah.
You know, it is sometimes
I'm
in
the
the
same
same way, right? Like you know it's going to rain. You don't bring an umbrella. You get soaking wet, and you're like, "Oh, Mother Nature."
Yeah. Or the weather person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that is
blame my
not my
kids
fault.
usually.
Yeah.
So there, I want to. So we talked about earlier. We talked about the importance of timing and scheduling. And there's a great question from Lindsay that I really wanted to bring up before we get too far ahead, because it's going to lead to some other stuff. She goes, "What is your tip for pinning content when the blog post has not gone live yet? Should I be posting blog posts for Valentine's Day right now so I can pin from it?" What are your thoughts, Meagan? You can go first.
Well, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about, in the traditional advertising world, about Christmas in July.
Right.
That I actually have people now who I've been working with for years, and they will publish for the purpose of gaining traction on Pinterest in time for the season. They will publish Christmas content in July. Now, some people aren't that prepared, or they don't plan that far in advance, about putting out some Christmas content in July. So really this idea of having everything, in the magazine world, people shoot a year in advance or 9 months in advance. So it's just about planning for the upcoming season and being fully prepared. I don't think most business owners plan, they don't have the ability to plan that far in advance. Now, you guys can comment. I actually saw something, and this is actually a great time to bring it up, with what to do if you have content that you have scheduled to go live on, and you want to schedule it in Tailwind, but the post isn't live yet. This actually came up in my community, that somebody said, I used to be able to do this, but now I can't add those pins to communities.
Oh, you can add them, but they won't go live until the pin actually goes to Pinterest, which makes sense.
Yes, exactly. Right. So I think that actually answers the question a little bit, that really you can't push out pins until the URL is live, right? So that's up to each individual business owner or blogger, whether they want to publish content well in advance. I don't know, you guys, I'd love for you to jump in, but I find that oftentimes people within my communities, the Christmas content that they're publishing this year will get them visibility and exposure, but not from Pinterest, but not like it will next year. So it's a lot of last year's content that is really the large lead generators driving the most, visibility, and the biggest, brand builders right now is our content from 2019 and even 2018, 2017, the old bread and butters that always go viral at this time of year.
Right.
Yeah. I did a quick search at trends.pinterest.com for Valentine's Day just to see when the searches start taking off. And there's a little bump that's happening right now. So starting this week, there's the first peak will be January 14th, and then it's just way up, until February 18th or whenever Valentine's Day is this year. So I would say publish it as soon as you can on your blog. If you're okay with it going out before Christmas, do that. But if you're not, definitely get it out by the 14th.
Because we know all those planners, right? They're all scrambling to start. They're done their Christmas plan and they're moving to Valentine's Day. Yeah.
By the way, if you are like, oh my goodness, I'm new to this. I don't know when things hit on Pinterest, like July. I'm supposed to spend stuff in July for Christmas. So if you are frustrated, we have a great new planner coming out for 2021. So if you go to bit.ly/pin planner 2021, all lowercase, all smashed together, go check that out. So at least I'm sure you had a hand in this if you did not do the entire thing. So can you talk about this a little bit? What's is there anything new that you learned putting this together? So what is new is somewhat influenced by the trends of this year, right? So obviously we updated the trends, and we're really looking at, what to be writing right now, what to be pinning right now, and what to promote right now. So it's just an updated version. We do this every year, but we're always adding in the new findings. So there's that one, and then there's an Instagram version as well, and those are out and ready to go. Yeah, bit.ly/pin planner 2021. Go check it out. And I'll get the other link up for the Instagram one as we're talking.
I just want to point something out too.
Uh-oh.
This is shout out to Justine, our designer. So a couple of the Pinterest predictions we're going to talk about involve lizards and neon colors. And if you get the Instagram planner, you will see a neon colored lizard on that planner. So I mean, if there's any doubt as to how on point these planners are, I mean, it's like, Justine, how did you do that? She hadn't read that yet.
So if you want the Instagram planner, it's bit.ly/InstaPlanner 2021. So I pulled that up on screen as well. But for the podcast listeners, InstaPlanner 2021, go there and download that today.
So speaking of the trends and your amazing planner, what were your favorite, maybe favorite, let's just say, which trends resonated most with you from the Pinterest Predicts, which, if people haven't read it yet, Pinterest is really good at predicting what is going to become a trend. Wasn't it like 8 out of 10 trends that they predicted last year came true?
Yeah.
Right? Yes, indeed. Even in the weirdest year in history.
That is pretty good. I mean, you got to think, like,
good.
Who would have thought this was going to happen? And look what, I can't believe it.
I know. So I asked Kristen, because Kristen, our content marketing manager, she had written a blog post about it. And I was like, what were the 2 that they missed? And apparently they missed responsible travel, which, I mean, nobody was traveling.
Everybody,
and the one about finding balance. And I said, oh, well, that's because there is no balance anymore. We cannot blame them for that.
That's interesting, because that trend continues, right? Like finding balance, self-care, taking care of ourselves during a time that's really, physically and emotionally stressful for people worldwide. It was interesting because you actually pointed out, Alyssa, how you can segment the trends by with an audience filter, which is a beautiful capability this year.
Yeah, you can do it. It's by generation. So we have Gen Z and boomers and millennials and Gen X. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm a Gen Xer. Jeff, I know you are too. So we should be into things like skinimalism, like not wearing too much makeup. So Jeff, you really need to cut that.
Underneath my beard, I'm caking it on.
I knew it. Modern mystic, manifesting. This one I think you probably like. Epic charcuterie. I can never say that word properly.
Oh yeah, it's a meat board. I'm all about the meats. So
yeah. But if you look it up, there's actually different styles. There's breakfast. There's hot chocolate. I looked into it because I'm somebody like, I love choice.
Yes, buffets.
It's a home buffet. We're not, a lot of buffets are shut down. Right now.
Thank goodness.
Right. So it's like the perfect. And so one of the ones I liked, and I was talking about with some people, was the car related one. That the car is becoming our another home.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Okay, so one I picked out specifically for Gen Xers is CEO is a new DIY.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So like branding your business, podcast design, entrepreneur motivation, accounting basics, small business ideas. I think probably a lot of our audience can relate, like, oh yeah, I do write about that.
Right?
Yeah. So a lot of like 105% increase in searches year over year for branding your business. 2x for entrepreneur motivation. There are tips for brands.
What I liked was the quote, bet on yourself, because we have seen so many people who, maybe during a time that's stressful, but found out their very secure job wasn't, and decided to become blogging, side hustle in the online space, starting their own business, maybe again, not under the circumstances that they had planned to, but what an amazing time to be in the online space, right? Considering it's a bit of a silver lining that we've seen, the world is just becoming more and more accessible through online learning.
Right. Yeah. And we were all wearing sweatpants anyway, if you were doing it from home. So,
hey, why are you giving away our sweatpants?
It's just like, what?
Already knew.
It's nothing new for us. Yeah.
So if you you should Google Pinterest predictions 2021 and just click through, keep clicking, because it just goes deeper and deeper until you get to tips for brands. So this one about the bet on yourself, it has tips for people in financial services, fashion and beauty, supplement brands, and interior design brands. So it's just there's something for everyone, even though some of these are really strange.
Right.
I don't even know what they are, but
You have to get a dictionary to look.
I do have to
I'm aware.
Google it.
But
I like
that actually came up in one of my groups, was about the people were taking a guess actually to talk about some of the rumors, is this feeling that Pinterest is it's attracting a younger audience as time goes on. I think I once had someone who worked in marketing who said to me, Pinterest is the land of Midwestern moms. And I, at the time, I thought it was hilarious. And I said, oh, I guess. She said from an advertising perspective, that's how she viewed it. And now we're seeing, lots of TikTok videos,
Right.
lots of younger people. I don't know if you guys have seen the uptick in the trend with aesthetic, ranking in all keywords.
Everything aesthetic.
All you got to do is spend 5 minutes on TikTok to learn more about that trend, which is what I did. I was like, what is this? And they're turning to Pinterest in droves. So it's interesting, this ability to segment the trends by audience and look at different trending things. But have you guys felt this shift in the audience?
I've seen because I do to TikTok.
Wait
Am I
a
gone
minute.
again?
You were gone for a second.
Back it up.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. I've been doing a lot of video, and so I've been seeing that trend with TikTok. But also, we've also got to remember, because we're seeing some changes as we're entrepreneurs and content creators, how that different, like my daughter's using Pinterest, but she's using it in a totally different way than I do, or my clients do. And so as that changes, the content we create and the way we do it needs to make sure that we are not just like Pinterest is, we put our foot down and get off my platform, that we've got to, it's not for us, it's for the end user. And that's one of the things we got to think about. We can't get stuck in our ways. Like I'm not a big fan of all the TikTok video, but it's on there because it's working right now.
It is.
How do I change that? How do I change my video content creation strategy?
On TikTok,
I know. Well, whatever.
All right, so I pulled up the Pinterest analytics insights, audience insights, and this is something I've noticed for a while now. The number one group of age distribution on Pinterest is 18 to 24-year-olds.
Yes.
That is so surprising to me.
So I was so interested in this new sort of thing happening that I actually spent some time. These are my secret powers. I spent time doing research on TikTok and Twitter. And this is how I learned that younger generation is moving away from places that they feel they're being inundated with messages from friends or family, and they want to go to Pinterest to get lost in aspire and be inspired by design, by aesthetics. So they'll be seeking like that woodsy feel or that urban escape, or and it's actually really beautiful because, like Jeff said, they're just using Pinterest in a different way than maybe what we had traditionally would define as the people. Now, what will be interesting is if they have buying power, right? Are these same people? Because we've seen, I know we're going to get into it, but the increases for ecom and, shoppable. I made some little notes about like shopping surfaces and product pins. The numbers are really impressive for 2020. But what is that demographic compared to this surge that we've seen in 18 to 25-year-olds? Right? Like,
it's hard to make a blanket statement because there's so many niches and there's so many different products. I mean, my Pinterest looks way different than probably Elisa's and Meagan's. I mean, I do a lot of wood carving and all that stuff. And so I have all that where I can buy the wooden rings now. I mean, and they're out there because they're making money. They're making, there's a reason that I'm seeing people doing a big ad spend on some of these products is because it seems to be working for them. So it's hard to say, it's only for this kind of group or it's only for this kind of niche. It's just, it's hard to say it. And we say it all the time. And I know people are sick of it, but it comes down to testing. It's going to be testing to what your message means.
But also, you've just touched upon something that I think people forget about is that Pinterest, also why so many people are moving as we live. Life is really stressful right now. Like the new normal, my son is playing outside the door. I had to have a pep talk, with my husband. I'm about to go do a live. Like, there's new stresses that we weren't used to before. And I think that we are feeling, maybe sometimes we want a break, and that break might be Pinterest. And I think that what's really beautiful about Pinterest, and I saw this actually by a young person on Twitter, said Pinterest is the only place that is purely curated to like my wonder world, like
Right.
my get lost dream world. So I go there and it's not diluted with stuff that I'm not interested in, or, you know, political messaging or stressful family stories, or, you know, it's literally just like the trip I'm going to take next year, the, you know, the outfits I'm going to buy when I can spend time with my friends, like all this sort of aspiration. And I think that's what's beautiful about Pinterest is it's so personally curated for every person that uses it.
And I think you hit on something really, okay. So how is a content creator or a product creator, how can I make that fit into my perfect audience, that niche? So if I am creating stuff on Etsy that's a woodcraft, how do I fit into that, you know, woodsy aesthetic that seems like it's really popular on Pinterest and on TikTok? And how do I get into those people? And maybe we need to start thinking about not hitting really hard over the head with the call to action and the sale, but how do we get into some of this stuff where those millennials and that age group are really, really hesitant to, you know, listen to anybody who's trying to sell them something? So I think it's really.
Are you also saying something about your children right now?
Yes, I am. They're probably watching, but you know what I'm seeing. So, yeah. But I totally agree with, okay, what people are going to, it's their escape. It's the only platform that doesn't have fake news. And I don't want to see my third cousin's dance recital show up in my feed.
Yes, you know you do.
I don't. And I don't even know what her name is. And so how do we move, you know, into that for our perfect audience? So good stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's always constantly evolving, right? Is like knowing your people, understanding their pain points, understanding the customer journey. I think that's something where we hear about these things like customer journey or reader journey. You know, I say bloggers will come to me and say like, what do you mean sales funnel? What do you mean customer journey? I'm like, you know, bloggers, when you design your content, it should be like a magical pathway of leading people from one thing to another, that they just want to think, how can I read more of what this person is putting out into the world? Or as a business owner, how do you solve that problem that they have? And it's easy to think that Pinterest is just the land of crafts and, you know, ill-lit photos, but it's not, right? We're going there to make plans, to you know, I think Pinterest it's a predictive tool. It's a planning tool. So when you think about that for your customer, but again, it has to come down with doing the work of understanding your people. Who's your person? Why do they love your content? Why do they need your products?
Right. So I want to, Jeff, you mentioned something about how do you get them without hitting them over the head with the sale. You know, Gen Zers are using email, like a lot. Let's see, 58% of Gen Z check their email multiple times a day. So I know email, it feels so old-fashioned now, but it really works, right? So if you can get them to your site from Pinterest, which is not that hard, you can get them to sign up. And that's really how you make a lot of the sales. You can do sales on Pinterest, of course, because like Meagan mentioned, the shopping surfaces, however they define that, the engagements there have grown 85% in the past 6 months. And engagement with shoppable product pins have increased 44% this year.
Incredible.
It's massive. And another thing too, you mentioned real briefly, Jeff, ads. Like you're seeing people spend money on ads for things that you are interested in. I just very quickly looked at Tailwind's ads and noticed when we advertise organic, we are getting, like, just in the past 30 days or so, an extra 17-ish% bump in organic, right? So it's not that, oh, Pinterest is favoring us because we're advertising. No, what that means is people are engaging with our ads and then sharing those, and then we're getting more traffic because people click on those. So if you're in a position where you're like, I need the traffic, I can't wait for this to build up, advertising is relatively affordable on Pinterest in some areas. And I'm about to do an experiment on trying to find the cheapest way to get just clicks. And my suspicion is that it's going to start with interest targeting. So stay tuned for more. And if you're interested, I've been talking to our ad rep about having another ad rep from Pinterest join us on this show to talk about how to get, affordable conversions. Let us know if you'd like to see that.
Oh, I'd like to see it.
Mm.
Oh,
You'd like to see it?
I wouldn't, right? Well, I think it lines up beautifully with some of their new tools about understanding. Because I don't know if you guys hear this, but a lot of people will say, "Okay, well, I'm getting the traffic. I don't think they're buying. I'm not making the sales. I'm running ads. I'm running organic."
Mhm.
And what I actually often say is it's because you don't have the right tracking in place, and or you don't understand your customer journey. Because what we find is someone discovers your product or your content on Pinterest, but they touch something else, email, Instagram, Facebook.
Yes.
They touch another platform before they purchase. And what I actually was doing some research about the new multiple attribution views, which is a new merchant tool, as well as the conversion insights and understanding. It's beautiful. Like we can now have access to the funnel, and it's converting it to percentages. And we're seeing people who are running, I had a client who ran ads in August. And then I've been watching their account since September, and I can see that they have a bump. Like you mentioned, the 17% bump. They stopped running ads, but we had long-term knockoff effects that weren't being attributed in Google Analytics. So as far as they were concerned, they had 0 conversions from Pinterest, but we actually had lots of conversions, but it was attributed and not attributed in a multi, assisted funnel, according to Google Analytics, like a third-party reporting dashboard. But now with the conversion insights, we could see that. And it was like, small wins. We're finally seeing it.
Yeah, that is great.
I want to bring up this from Jennifer. She goes, and the benefit from a promoted pin can legitimately last for years. I have some ads from 2 years ago that are still send Magic traffic.
Right.
Yeah. So a lot of people have that. So
I think that if people are new to promoted pins, one of the beautiful things that you don't pay for, but what ends up happening is that when you run a promoted pin campaign, people save your pin because it's helpful. It's inherently helping them. And those saves will give back for years and years to come. And I've actually had the same observation as Jennifer is, I run promoted pins for my own business on and off, and those saves give back for years and years and years. And it's natural distribution that you don't pay for.
Absolutely. Right. Something else that I really liked about the new conversion information is that it would show you generally the time to conversion. So it will really help you, especially if you're running an ad campaign, you can say, okay, it generally takes this long from sign up to upgrade, like 14 days, let's say. So I know that I've got to run this test at least 15 days to see if it's going to result in any upgrades at all. And because people are always like, well, how long should I let it run before I start adjusting? That is going to tell you, because if you adjust it at 7 days, you haven't gotten to that point where you should see anything. It's really great to have all that information. Yeah.
So don't forget, while we have this break, to go and sign up for our pin planner for 2021. You can be at bit.ly/pin planner 2021. That's the Pinterest version. We also have the Instagram version at bit.ly/Insta planner 2021. So go check those out. But we're at a little over the halfway mark, Elisa.
Ooh,
so
wow.
I'm like, come on. We need to get on like some of the new, updates that have been happening. I know people are really interested in that. So why don't you cover like the first one and we'll start talking about it.
Okay. So one of them came out this fall, and it's improved product tagging, which gives people the ability to tag your image with exact products. So let's say you have a picture, and I see a lot of these actually, a picture of a beautiful kitchen, but you want to tag the blender and the cabinet door and the sink fixture, and you want to do it right where they are on the photo, and then you want to have the products all show up with the pin. You can do that. It's really cool. And that's probably why they're getting so much engagement on those shoppable pins.
And they're making it easier for people to find the products that they're looking for, right? Like, do you guys remember like 5-6 years ago, you'd see a beautiful room and you'd think, where is that sofa from? And it was like a wild goose chase of reverse image search. So it is just making it like, a lot of their new features have just made shopping that much easier. Like they're taking away those barriers for the end user for finding out how they can buy the thing that they see in the beautiful picture.
Yeah, and I should say it's a test still. So I went through the process to apply to get it, and it looks like you need to have your feed set up. So you have your shop tab, and it looks like at this moment anyway, it's kind of implied that you need to have verified merchant status. Or maybe that's just preferred anyway. But yeah, we've talked about that a lot, right? So setting up your shopping feed and your catalog, which I know Jeff has to ask about in a minute anyway.
Right. But Mike, this is my question. So I know a lot of bloggers and digital creators ask this, but do you think they're ever going to open it up for digital products? Because right now it's only for physical products as far as I can see. Yeah. And of course, I try to reverse engineer it and see if I could do something on Shopify and make a digital product and it's still not working. So, but I'm always trying to hack something, but, do you think they'll, because I think there's a whole market for digital products that one is a lower barrier for people to do that, it's, to especially for bloggers and content creators. But do you think they're going to ever offer that, like a digital way to do that, or no?
I would be really surprised if they did. I know, really? I don't have any insider information on that. I'll tell you that right now. But if you look at where the focus is, like even looking at the interests you can target, looking at, we used to have board categories. Now we still have account categories. You don't see marketing, right? No. You don't see business building, even though that is a topic people are interested in on Pinterest. It's not something that Pinterest has really focused on. So I would be surprised.
Yeah, the numbers just aren't behind it, right? Not yet anyways. But you would think even like, from a very, us aside of being in the digital online space and being, what do they call, like an infopreneur, I think is a made up term that people say. But, say even like the busy mom who's looking for a digital planner or a wedding planner, like there's lots of digital items that, I say quote regular people use. So I wonder, maybe we can cross our fingers, submit some.
Well, like I think the educational space would be huge. Like teacher pay teachers and all that kind of stuff. That's still a big spot on Pinterest. I just think there should be something.
It's only going to get bigger, right? Like look how many people are now virtually learning, especially at the high school and, older levels, that there'll be even people who didn't want to are being forced to engage with education in that way. So having access, we'll see.
Oh, I need to find a teachers pay teacher seller who's on Shopify to see if we can get that integration to work.
Yeah, that'd be good. So this is what Becky, I can't remember where we have talked about this. I think it maybe been 2 shows ago, but setting up the merchant, we've talked about it. She says it's very hard to get. She keeps getting rejected, and I'm not sure why. Do you guys have any advice for her if you're been rejected, what to do and how to overcome it?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say the same thing.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Have I. Well, I heard the biggest reason is that because one of the number one reasons for being rejected is that you do not have an email that is info or support at your registered domain. So people often will use a Gmail-based email address, say like, something Etsy at, or Etsy shop owner at gmail.com, or that's a bad example, but you know what I mean? Like baby clothes at gmail.com, and those automatically get rejected. So I've heard that one of the number one reasons why you will get rejected is because you're not using a verified domain-based email address for your application, which is actually a pretty simple thing to solve.
That's awesome. I know having privacy policy, having a shipping return policy is really important, but there are some really good resources on the Pinterest community. So if you go to community.pinterest.biz and search verified merchant status, there are 2 threads by the admins, one about technical best practices, one about program FAQ. So I would look there as well. They may have more of a list of things to check.
And I think as time goes on, right, like we see lots of new features being rolled out between the integration with Shopify, other platforms. But when new things get rolled out, some old things sometimes break.
That's right. Well, and I don't think Elisa still has story pins yet, do you? Are you still?
No.
Yeah, I don't have story pins either.
Yeah.
See, I just love that I have something that Elisa doesn't. And I hope it goes on for 2021, just because it's amazing.
Is that the spirit of this year?
Yeah. And I don't even use them. I just want them. I just want them so she can't have them.
Yeah.
So.
Figures.
Anyway, so what's some other news we have? There's some other, that was the first update. What's the second one, Elisa, that we were going to talk about here?
What was the other one?
It was the catalog ingestion process. They're making it easier for people to come in there.
Yeah.
When I experiment with the Shopify store, sometimes, I like the easier ingestion and it's really helpful, when you have a huge like queue of like products you can bring in, but it can also be a nightmare. So you really have to use these tools because like if you screw something up, all of a sudden you're created, 500 t-shirts that are all extra large that are red. And you're like, what did I do? And so this is great, but make sure you know what you're doing. I wouldn't start with this right off the bat. I would use some of the other stuff like
that was going to be my comment as well, that it seems to be a feature that is really heavily favored to people with very large inventories,
right?
Which hopefully they have someone very skilled working with them. I've heard it can be very fussy, or even that people have uploaded it, seemed to work, then it didn't, where they're getting a message, it didn't work, and then all of a sudden it appears.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I've seen the same thing. So it's a great tool, I think, but use those like one-click buttons with very, very carefully, because I've been there and spent the rest of the day deleting Shopify products from
extra large red shirt.
Yes. Over and over. So
I am glad they're making it easier though, because it was kind of a black box before, and the Shopify integration, assuming you have it set up right, it should take about 5 minutes to go. And that's really the first step to getting to your verified merchant status, which looks like it's going to become more and more important over time.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be easier. They're locked it down pretty hard right now, but I think it's going to be opening up. I don't think it'll be like the blue check like you need on Twitter or people want on Instagram. I don't think it's going to be something like that. I think it's going to be, they want to make sure, like we've talked about, the right email. They want to make sure you have because they don't want to get burnt. You got to think about, you have to have your privacy in place. You got to make sure you're doing all the can spam backs, all those things that you're supposed to have for a legitimate business. If you're just going and applying for this verified account without having that, they're just going to go no.
Well, it's like all things. They're trying to protect the end user, right? They're protecting people who are vulnerable and to protect their experience. So actually, we should be like, this is a good thing. Sometimes when it's a little bit harder, and then you can have a party when you get it.
Yes, you should have a party when you get it.
Yes. So we touched upon this last piece, which there's some ad updates. But it's this new conversion analytics, that your visualization tools, it makes it easier to see how your pins are performing and different objectives. So have you guys played with them? What are some of the things that you like about them? What you don't like? Maybe what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I played around with it because I wanted. So I only have a few clients who run advertising on a regular basis, but are also e-commerce is really what we were looking for. So, add to cart, purchase, and actually I found it incredibly helpful because it backed up a lot of what I often say, that the journey, the pathway to purchase, as Pinterest calls it, is often sometimes a little bit longer. We're used to this impulsive world, see something on Instagram stories, buy today, and Pinterest doesn't work the same way. And often I think attribution gets misattributed or over attributed to something else, because we know marketing is all systems working together. So what I loved about it was the visualization. Elisa mentioned it earlier, being able to see, how many people converted or added to cart, how long did it take? I love that. I also love that it was able to identify conversions that actually Pinterest was involved with, but not given attribution for.
Yeah. What about you, Elisa?
Also the pins. I just want to add in also which pins resulted in which events.
Yes.
Also very helpful.
Pinterest is getting very, they're making the right strides so you can really track things, and the conversion tracking. I know it's kind of a pain to set up, and getting your events to fire and all that kind of stuff when you're first getting started. But once it's set up, it's pretty cool. I'm thinking eventually they're going to get to the 1 pixel kind of thing like Facebook has, but they're just.
That would be so nice.
I know. It'd be a lot easier
I always tell people though, so I had problems with my own tag, and actually I went in to check my own tag last night and it was reported as being unhealthy. So I have to tag some events we have to update, like that they didn't like
COVID.
Exactly, it got COVID and we've abandoned it. We've just let it go for a few months there. But what I really liked is that when we did have problems, we reached out and we had the nicest engineer from Pinterest support help us, and he actually bought my product to test all of my events. The individual was lovely, went above and beyond, and we had it fixed right away. And he tested each stage of it. And so if anyone does have difficulties, I know this seems obvious, reach out to help. from within the Pinterest ads dashboard because they want you to spend money. They want it to be successful. So reach out if you're having a problem with your tag and something isn't working, ask them for help and they will help you.
Yeah.
And if you need your product to sell, just ask Melissa's engineer and they'll buy at least one product from you. So, I was just kidding. Sorry, Pinterest. So what about you, Elisa? Have you played with it at all?
No, I don't. Right now, I don't have any ecom paid ads people that I'm working with. So
cool. Well, we've got about 10 minutes left in the show. And so I want to make sure if you guys have questions that you have a chance to ask Meagan while she's here so we can make sure to ask and get all her smarts about that. But we do have a question I would pull up. From Crystal says, does anyone know about anything about bad bots, crawlers coming from Pinterest and creating invalid clicks that have been causing issues for bloggers who use Google AdSense? Have any of you guys heard of that? I haven't heard of any bad crawlers.
No,
that doesn't seem like anything Pinterest would do.
No,
it's Google's fault. Whatever.
Yeah, I was gonna say Google will try to find any reason to not pay you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I wanted to share, we have the very last What Pinners Are Searching For This Week of the year is out. That is, Meagan, I don't know if you've seen this.
No, I didn't have a chance.
Oh my goodness.
Is it good?
So, yes, it is so amazing. So in community, I just go in, now I followed the thread, but What Pinners Are Searching For, search for that. And there's a PDF just about every week that is like real time what people are searching for. This one's for December 7th. So just some of the highlights are, people are looking for communal giving, which is cool, right? So right now the search term work gifts is up 9x now compared to a month ago, it looks like. No, a year ago. Ooh, yeah, that's a pretty big deal.
So people are wanting to give more presents or gifts this time, maybe after a difficult year, saying thank you to your hardworking team. Makes sense.
Yeah. Similar to neighbor Christmas gifts. So think about what do you have that can fit into these searches? Some similar self-care. It's really big right now compared to last year because we're all new it. There's a 5x increase in cozy gift basket ideas.
Oh, I love that cozy.
I know, everything cozy sounds so good right now. Gamer gift baskets. Yeah.
So can you tell people, because people are asking, where did you find this from?
Okay.
And where can they go find it?
Okay. I can drop the link.
It's in the community. If you guys, you guys aren't part of Pinterest community, go there because I almost go there now more than I go to Pinterest help because some of the help is a little outdated. It's broken. And so going into community, you can usually find a thread with something that if you have an issue with, that a lot of times you can find the answer to that problem or you have somebody else who has. So go, so it's Pinterest community. Community.pinterest.biz and search when you're in there. Search for What Pinners Are Searching For.
Awesome.
And then look for the most recent one. It's so good. It's like
giving you just think if Google said, hey, this is what this is what you need to do. Here's what you need to put on your,
Okay.
And Pinterest is doing it. It's just and then we argue with them.
You know what I also love for the if you're sort of stuck for ideas is hanging out in the Today tab. I love the Today tab. I get inspiration like story pins, video pins, trending topics. I've had some people from my community who have niche related content or small content that's relevant to things that they are promoting and talk about. Eid projects, maximalist interior designs. A previous client of mine got featured. So it's a really good opportunity also just to see keep your finger on the pulse and get inspired by how other creators are presenting their content and that they're getting selected by Pinterest and being featured.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool.
Yeah. So we have about 5 minutes left, but I wanted to make sure that
wait. I want to go back, and I'm sorry I've forgotten your name. The person that asked about Valentine's Day.
Oh yeah, very very top of the show.
Okay, so that is in this list here. There's also a looking forward to January, and this is in the January section. So we've got Valentine's Day aesthetic, Valentine's Day nails, romantic bedroom ideas for Valentine's.
Valentine's
there. I'm just reading what they said.
Okay. It's a family show.
DIY Valentine's decorations. Yeah. I mean, exactly like Jeff said, they're telling us exactly what people want. And they're really good at these predictions too. So yeah, just do what they say.
Yeah. I think it's like using tools, like, using the planner that you guys have, using all the tools that Pinterest gives you, and thinking about your unique audience and what your superpower is. I think that sometimes we underestimate what makes us different or unique, right? Like there's lots of people who talk about Pinterest, but the way that different people describe it, or their audience, or how they describe it, I think that sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the like, oh, there's so much change and I can't handle it, and I'm mad at Pinterest for doing X. Really refocus that 10 minutes that you would have spent getting mad in a Facebook community to thinking about your content, looking at those weekly trends, looking at the Today tab, looking at what do you have that's pre-existing that you could update and republish, right? There's all these. So I had a blogger that I was chatting with the other day, and she's actually decided to take some time off, and she's republished some old content. She's been featured by Pinterest twice in the last 7 days.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, with that newly published content that she updated, and she created a few fresh pins. Bob's your uncle. Yeah, she's being featured.
Where else could you do that?
Right.
Yeah. For stuff that she published last year. Right. And she's not even like, she's taking a break right now from her blogging life.
That's awesome.
Wow. Okay. So, and one last thing. I know. I'm impossible. Okay, you got to get this PDF because, and I wish I could just share a link to the PDF, but it just downloads right to your computer. So toys, they're giving you a whole list of what people are buying right now too. Obviously, toy craft kits, 6x increase in checkouts for activity monitors and free weights, 6x checkouts for antivirus and security software. I mean, these are like, why would anybody go on Pinterest to buy antivirus and security software? You would think, oh, Pinterest is
somebody
not for me, right?
But do you think you go to Pinterest to find an article that talks about like the different program, like a nice blog post that positions the different software with pros and cons, and then you end up buying? So it's like not last touch, but that's where you're going to find. I wouldn't.
This is even checkouts. Yeah, like from Pinterest, it's crazy. So like, if you think your industry or your product doesn't belong there, you might need to just think about it a different way. Like,
right.
This is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want to think about some stuff about a different way, jump back like 2 or 3 where Lisa shared the formula where you talk about our favorite thing, the bourbon smash. Just do that search and you will find where we talked all about this formula on how to maybe rethink the way you come up with content ideas. Yeah. But we are running towards the end. And I want to make sure that we give Meagan plenty of time to talk about where we could find her. She was an incredible resource and guest this time. And so, so I want to bring up this is where we can find her. But talk about this for a little bit.
Yeah. So, I just, we were chatting about where would be the best place for people to find me if they did want to follow up. And Lisa and I have chatted about some of the conversations that come up about Tailwind in my free Facebook community. I love Facebook groups because it's where we can come together, put our heads together, learn about different things. And so my Facebook community is just that. So it's a Pinterest marketing and strategy with Meagan Williamson. So you can join that for free. I run regular challenges and we have great conversations about updates and things that some people see and don't see. And everyone in there is so lovely and supportive. So if you want, join us there. It's a fun place to be most of the time.
Art is just the way with all the groups.
Right.
And I need to apologize because I've only known you online. And this is the first time we've spoken in real life, I think. And I've been calling you Meagan. And I'm really sorry. It's Meagan.
You know what? It's you can thank my mother. I am well used to it. Growing up in an 80s kid, I lived. I think I had 4 friends named Megan. My alter ego is Meagan Williams. I'm very used to it. Please don't worry. It's the same that I have to stop and think because I know an Alyssa, but it's Elisa.
That's what. Right? No, you just call her whatever. Alyssa.
I get all kinds of things.
Yeah, I get Jeff sick and whatever all the time. So just the bearded guy. With that, make sure you guys do not forget these awesome planners. Somebody else was asking towards the end of the show. You can find our planners for 2021 at bit.ly/pin planner 2021, and also our Instagram one at bit.ly/instaplanner 2021. Go check those out. Get them while they're hot. And with that, thank you guys so much. Once again, if you've got value from the show, call people in, let them watch the replay, sprinkle it out across the interwebs. And with that, we'll see you guys next time. Elisa, I'll let you have the last word.
Why, thank you. So I just want to share some of the things we have upcoming. Next time we talk, we'll have our Pinterest Quick Start will be out. We have some fabulous e-commerce guests coming up. We have some video guests coming up. We have all kinds of really good stuff for you. And again, if you're interested in hearing about Pinterest advertising from a Pinterest ad rep, let us know. I can set that up. That'll be fun too.
Yep. I'll be there.
Bye, everybody. Have a great